Welcome back, everyone. Before we move on to our next major topic, I would like to wrap up this section by looking at a couple more things that Java provides for us as developers. One first thing we're going to look at is documentation. Now, before I proceed to a Google search, and you probably have already read the content material, and you know that you can get the documentation of any method out there by searching it online, right? There is one more way of getting a documentation. That's easy way without requiring a Google search. Math.max method, right? Let's say 76 and 52 or 54, doesn't matter. So this compiles, everything is good. Hover over the word max. What comes up in your Eclipse IDE is actually the documentation. So scroll down, but this is not as expanded documentation as you'll find online. This is documentation related to this specific method. It says int java lang.mathmax. It even gives you the package name of the class that the method is located in. The int is the variable that it is returning. We're going to look into this later. Don't worry about it. Name is max. This is the method signature. Public static int max, int a, int b. Accepts two int arguments. They name them a and b. It explains what the method does. It explains its arguments. It explains its return value, right? This is the documentation for math.max method. So math classes, max method. Let's hover over the math class itself. If you hover over it, and if you come down to hover over this yellow section, and if you scroll down, this is going to be the documentation for math class. It explains what this class is about. It explains what methods there are, gives you general idea why this was correct, why this was created, this class was created, what are its advantages, what are disadvantages, accuracies, inaccuracies, everything. So your Eclipse, your IDE, any other IDE I believe would do this, will actually open up the documentation for you. Another way of getting the documentation, if you want to read about a certain specific class and its methods, just go to Google and search for example, Java. Let's look at scanner documentation, right? Or let's actually look at Java math documentation. Enter, and you'll find official Oracle website that starts with HTTPS docs.oracle.com, and this here is going to tell you what platform of Java and what version it is. This documentation is coming from Java Platform Standard Edition 8. Click on this, and here you have the detailed documentation of this whole math class. When we hovered over the class name on Eclipse, this is what we saw, right? This information here, right? When we hovered over the max method of the math class, let me try to find it. It's going to be a while. Let me scroll down around. For example, power. Can I find max? So when we hovered over the max method, this is what we saw. Do you remember? Exactly the same content. So Java provides documentation, official documentation, explaining you what each method does, what each class does. You're more than welcome to search for them and look through them. However, there are going to be a lot of things that you will probably not understand, and it's okay. So do not spend too much time on this. Down the road, when we will see a lot more topics about object-oriented programming and everything, reading these documentations will seem easy, and it will actually at some point will seem important to understand what's going on. Okay. Now that we have seen how Java documents everything, all the classes and methods in its library, let's move on to and see what option Java provides for us as developers. Because down the road, like look at our Eclipse IDE now. For example, we already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 packages, and each package contains 2, 3 classes at least on average, right? We are already building a library, and the assignments that are being given to you is already adding up to this library with multiple and multiple classes. So what if you want to access this smart printer class down the road and you forget what it was doing? Can we write a similar documentation? And the answer is yes. Before I move on to us writing a documentation, you know that Java provides, allows you to comment on lines, right? So if // is a single line or end of the line comment. They call it end of the line comment because if you add it anywhere in the line, anywhere in any given line, until the end of this line, it will be accepted as a comment. If I add here mat.min or whatever, this will be a comment itself. So this is going to be end of the line commenting style. So you can add it. It's usually short comments telling you what you're trying to do in this specific line. Usually, I recommend using these comments before you're doing something and explaining what you're going to do in the next line. However, there might be certain areas where you will need this comment just to add at the end. Okay, just to say that, okay, this result is going to be, for example, let me show you here. I can make a note to myself, a mental note to myself that 125 will return, for example, 125. And I cannot add code after this. I cannot add anything after this. I cannot add anything that compiler will read after this. I have to go to a new line and then write down. The same applies if I have a lot to comment and I need more space. If I move on to the next line, I cannot just continue writing here, right? It will not accept it. I will need to specify that this line is a comment too. So this is a single line and end of the line commenting style. Now Java allows a different type of a commenting style that starts with 1//, 2 stars. And since we're using IDEs, just click enter here. What will happen is Eclipse will automatically create a space for you to write. These stars are optional. What you need to know, as you read in our material, is anything between this combination of a /* and this combination star then followed by / is going to be accepted as a comment. For example, this here, this is also a comment. Correct? And now look at this. I can continue coding here. Right? So for Java, this is a special type of commenting. And if you're going to comment within the code, you're not even required to use 2 stars. Do you see how the color changes? So this is inline comment style. So inline, not end of the line, inline comment style. This is end of the line comment style. And this is documentation comment style, or Java, aka Javadoc comment style. So see what will happen. And it has my parameter text. Let's do this. Let's go hover over. I'm going to show you something. Parameters. It says, for example, A, an argument, B, another argument. So parameter text, a string argument, an int argument. Now, I wrote this, I saved my code. Let's say I forgot about this section of my code, right? I forgot. I know that somewhere out there I have a smart printer that does something, but I forgot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hover over smart printer. Look what happened. Everything that I put in those comments are automatically recorded by IDE. Okay, so you remember how we typed in this is documentation style comment, aka Javadoc comment style? Even though we wrote them in multiple lines, they kind of piled up to a single line. You remember how there was a parameter text automatically generated by a parameter number, and I just put that this is an int argument, this is string argument. So why do we talk? Let's just show this to you, right? So let's open up some space. These are what I wrote within the special type of commenting, right? When I hover over, next time I want to use this method, whatever I type in here will appear on my method documentation, you see? So down the road, we will need to use this. We will need to make a habit of using this and adding smart comments on top of our methods, so that down the road, when we call these methods, or when someone else calls these methods, they know what these methods are going to do. Okay, so it's going to be, even for example, let's say you don't need to look at the comment here. What happened is, let's say you're reading someone's code. You come to the you come to what's its name? You come to a method. There is, let's say, tons of lines of code here, right? So the method starts here and method ends here, and there are like different types of coding styles and this and that. Instead of reading all this code inside here, what you can simply do is you can trust that whoever wrote this code put here a simple information saying that what this method does. Okay, so we can say this method accepts a text and a number, and it prints out using, when I press enter, the new line opens automatically, using system out print line method, right? This text concatenated by let's, like, space is also character, right? By by colon and the space, and by the number. So next time I call this method, I hover over, it gives me exactly what this does. This method accepts, and let me do this new line. It's not gonna work, my bad. Okay, so let's say I want to see what it does before I run it. I can hover over the method name. I will see what's going on. Let's say I wanna read someone else's code. Instead of reading the code itself, I just need to understand what it does, right? There might be something wrong here, but when I read it, I can relate to it. So this is also dynamic. So if I add anything at this point, and after I save my code, the same will appear automatically on my commenting. I added a dot, it appeared. I added a period, it appeared here already. Okay, so this is how Java allows us to comment and make our lives easier, and also make others' lives easier. Okay, so this is also important from the point of view of making your code look professional. You do not have to, neither anyone else has to read your every single line of code to understand what the method does. Commenting it will save everyone time. Also add inline comments, end of line inline comments, or end of line comments to help you understand your code as it proceeds, as it progresses further. Thank you very much. And this is, for now, we're going to wrap up our methods at this stage. Next, we're going to look into how to make our programs more smarter, how to add conditions to our program executions. Thank you very much for your time. I will see you then.